I think it's hard to say that if you didn't know anything that happened at our church, that would be a snapshot of a lot that's happening throughout the year. There's a lot that goes into a week. There's a lot that we're going to a Sunday. There's a lot that goes into everything we do here at HopePoint Church. But the reason we do it is Jesus. And so if you go, wow, look at all those things there. I didn't know they did that. That's okay. Thanks for coming. If you go, hey, I want to be on the screen next time, jump on. Jump into a ministry. If a baby can make it, so can you. Can you turn off the lights for a second, please, Matt? Can you turn off the front? Thanks. We've been talking about Jesus being the light in Christmas. I've been given, 12 minutes that I'm allowed to speak. It started at 20, and every time I spoke, Pastor Warren, I got less and less. Talking about Jesus is the light. Jesus is the light of hope, the light of peace, the light of love. And so when we think, and I know the Christmas season has just ended, you probably still have a tree up. Mine's going to be there till at least Feb at this point. I don't know when, maybe yours is already down. Good for you. But I think of light, and I think of the fact that Jesus is the light, and Jesus came to bring light into darkness. But when Jesus left, the light did not leave. When Jesus left, when he died and rose again, and he ascended up to heaven, the light did not just then cease to exist. In fact, Jesus was going to say that you are the light of the world. And I thought about this. We were at a youth camp once. I've got to be careful where I shine this. We were at a youth camp once, and we're walking to this glowworm cave. Down, it's wet, it's dark. We didn't do any risk assessments that I believe. I think I was in charge. I don't think we did any risk assessments. And we're walking to this cave, and we had this kid in year 7 who had brought a friend. His friend's name was John. John was a bit erratic, to say the least. And John didn't have a torch. But John goes, I don't need a torch. Beautiful Fijian kid. He goes, I've got a camera. He had like a camera from the 2000s, like this silver block of a camera. And what John would do is John would take a photo of the path. John would take a photo and it would flash. And then John goes, I know where I'm going. And John would run down the path into this forest. I mean, I'm not even kidding. And then we had to catch up with John. John saw this flash. I have this image that Jesus did not just take this flash snapshot and then disappear. Jesus did not just take this beautiful flash of light and then he's gone back up to heaven and we're like, what do we do? In fact, he teaches his disciples and he teaches you and me that he is the light of the world. And I think of this little light. This is my father-in-law's torch, apparently the best torch you can buy. And it lights up. It lights up. But I have the ability to just kind of keep it here. And so we're going to talk on light. Thanks, Maddie. Could I have the house lights back on and all the other lights on, please? So if you've got your Bibles, I think I've got maybe 9 minutes left. Someone's timing me somewhere. If you've got your Bibles this morning, you've got a phone, you've got whatever it is, I want to talk very briefly and then we're going to take communion. And we're just going to end our year. I don't know how your year started. I don't know how your year is ending. Can you turn on the front ones as well, please, Matt? Thank you. I don't know how your year's been, but God does not change based on our years. God does not change based on our circumstances. God does not change whether we win, whether we lose, whether we get the bonus, whether we meet our KPIs, whether even our prayers are answered or not. God does not change. And so then I want to go to Matthew 5. Matthew 5, the Sermon on the Mount. Probably Jesus' most famous sermon. I'm going to jump straight into Matthew 5. Thank you, Jala. Jesus says, and I'm going to read from verse 13 first. He says, you are the salt of the earth. But if salt should lose its taste, how can it be made salty again? It's no longer good for anything, but to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. In verse 14, Matthew 5. Jesus goes on to say again, remember, he's speaking to his disciples on a mountainside surrounded by a crowd of people. So it's like he's having this one-on-one or 1-on-12 lesson, even though he actually hasn't even called all his disciples yet, and yet he's surrounded by people. Jesus will say, verse 14, you are the light of the world. A city situated on a hill cannot be hidden. Those who are followers of Jesus are called to bring light. Light brings life. Light brings illumination. Light brings clarity. It goes from darkness and chaos to order. At the very beginning of the Bible in Genesis, God says, let there be light. The very first thing, when everything was in darkness, he says, let there be light. And when you say yes to Jesus, you say yes to being transformed by him and for him. I don't just say yes to Jesus and it's me and Jesus and I got this little silo thing going on. And when I say yes to Jesus, one, I say yes to following him. I say yes to being transformed by him. And I say yes to being transformed for him so that others may see. Morris Leon, a theologian, notes, Christ himself is the light, whereas his followers, us, we're no more than pointers, no more than reflectors of Christ the light. But in this way, they or we bring light to the world. And we bring the world to the light that would not take place apart from them or apart from us. In other words, because we bring Jesus as light, we play a part in God's story. We play a part in the story of God, of Jesus' word, of Jesus' story of the death and resurrection of the cross being spread to other people. Morris Leon says, unless we do that, that will not happen. If the light of the world is confined to this church or all churches and not outside, if we're just waiting for people just to walk in and they say, oh great, here's this great news, then we miss the whole point of following Jesus. Verse 15, Jesus will say, no one lights a lamp, no one lights a torch, no one lights anything and puts it under a basket, but rather on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. You got to think ancient Middle East. They've got a camp and they've got a candle on a wick and they can carry it around. They've got to light it and you got to put it up high so that the whole house is lit up. There's no ability to turn up the torch. Jesus is saying you're either lit and you're shining or you're a light, but you are covered. The whole point of light is not to be covered. As I've demonstrated already, the very purpose of light is to shine for others to see. The very purpose of light in the house was so that people could see where they were going. The light, the torch, the lamp, whatever analogy, it only serves its purpose when it is on and when it is shining. This is a torch. It will always be a torch, whether I turn it on, but if I do not turn it on, it does not serve its purpose. It's just another object, it's just another thing sitting in the house. But when the torch is on, it serves its purpose. When the torch shines. Morris Leon again would say the very purpose of being a follower of Jesus is to give light. Giving light is not an option. I'm sorry if you were coming in here today, go, end of the year is just great. Giving light is not an option which a disciple may or may not choose. It is a part of being a disciple, as much part of discipleship is as giving light of a lighted lamp. And verse 16, as the band would come. In the same way, Jesus will end this little stanza and this little part of his Sermon on the Mount that goes from Matthew 5 to 7. Verse 16, in the same way, let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. I like that there's no definition of others. Jesus is talking to Jewish young men surrounded by Jewish people, maybe surrounded by rabbis or Pharisees, potentially even surrounded by Roman soldiers, and yet there's no delineation way back in Matthew 5 about who others may or may not be. Jesus just says, in the same way, let your light shine before others. Simply let your light shine. Our good works are not for others, though that you might look at that and go, oh, so that they might see our good works. No, so that they might see what it means to be a follower of Jesus. That they might see what we do as a church and not simply think, well, that church is doing a great thing, they're just a great church, but actually that we're pointing people to Jesus. That's the whole point. As we follow Jesus and become more like Jesus, the more we shine and reflect him to those around us. 1 Peter 2:9 says, therefore, I've got on the screen, sorry. It It says, but you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for his possession, so that you may proclaim the praises of the one who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. That's the whole reason we do this. So I want to encourage you, church, would you get your communion ready? If you don't have communion, it's on the back there. And as you get your communion ready, would you stand?